hope that you guys can hear me okay. I just had the chance to sit here with a group of friends and watch what the president had to say, as well as the GOP response. Over the last couple of days, I've also been talking with folks, tweeting with some folks, and chatting on Facebook about what we think of what the president has done. Now, because we've all been sitting in front of a screen for the last hour and a half, I'm going to keep this relatively short. But I want to give a couple of comments. First, background. I'm speaking as a person who, as many of you know, supported President Obama pretty significantly during the campaign. And I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of other people who are very active in looking at getting this particular candidate elected, and have been asking a lot of questions since then. You know, for many of us, we came into this with an idea that this is a candidate that represents real and legitimate and potentially long-lasting change. And we've come face to face with some of the real problems and challenges that you see when one moves beyond campaigning and into governance. And one of the big things that we realize is that, well, the president may have great ideas, but he can't necessarily fulfill all of them because he's not making all of these things happen on his own. He's dependent upon Congress, and Congress is influenced by a variety of outside parties, ourselves being among them, but we not being the only ones. So one of the big things that I was looking for when watching this speech, and that a lot of my peers, I think, were also looking for, is whether or not the president actually is the guy we thought he was. If he believes in the things we thought he believed in. And thirdly, is he willing to really go to bat and fight for those things which we saw in him and that led us to believe that he ought to be elected and that he deserved our votes and our time. I would say on the first couple of points, he actually did pretty well. He reinforced a couple of key issues that I thought were hella important. First of all, healthcare. We've come so far along the line in this regard. And a lot of people have been, questioning whether this is a government takeover, whether this is some kind of move towards a socialistic phase in American life, whether this is something that is going to hurt old people, kill your grandma, death panels, etc. And I feel like amidst all of that noise, a lot of progress was actually made. And the Democrats managed to pass something through the House with one Republican vote, and then pass something through the Senate with no Republican support. Now, in the wake of the Massachusetts election, folks are saying, oh my God, they can't get it done, they can't get it done. And one of the things I was looking at from the president today is to see if he would really commit that this is something important enough that we're not going to let it go. We're not going to go soft on it, and we're not going to let it wait. Because for those of us who are from the outside looking in, we don't necessarily know the internal machinations of Washington. We don't know what all the sausage making is all about. All I know is, am I going to get a burger and fries? And can you kindly put it in that context for me? Are you willing to give the people what we want and what we need, with or without an insight into all the back deals or the backdoor deals that it takes to get things done? I felt like he made a strong position or a strong statement. He said that healthcare is important. It's critical to solving all the problems facing our nation. He did a nice job in laying out what some of those challenges were, and on the tail end of it, coming back to healthcare. I think he did a great thing for progressives in speaking to the don't ask, don't tell issue, because a lot of people have been wondering about that. I also think he did well to raise the issue of American education and the idea of clean energy being a way for us to be competitive in the future, and the need for us to have competitive students in order to have a competitive economy. So overall, I would say that he said a lot of the things that I would like to hear. Now, what's next? Before I get to that final piece, I want to touch a little bit on the GOP response. I mean, frankly, for those that don't know me, I'm politically an independent. I'm not registered as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm in California, what we call unaligned. And so I'm always curious to hear what the other side has to say, because I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the partisan bickering that we don't really focus on what is the substance of what people are bringing to the table. So I listened to the Republican rejoinder with great interest. And there are a couple of things that I'd have to say. One is the guy who does the response is always at a disservice. Right? He's always at a bit of a disadvantage because basically he's written a speech beforehand on what he thinks the president is going to say, and he's going to speak to that speech. He's going to stick to those words. And basically what I heard was a lot of the same, unfortunately. This idea that, oh, the administration is trying to socialize our health care, that the administration has sought to take over our financial sector and the auto sector without acknowledging that the initial auto bailout was granted by the Bush administration, as was the initial financial bailout. TARP was launched under Bush administration. So basically, I'm listening to the speech and I'm thinking, wow, either this guy thinks we haven't been paying attention at all, or he's basically following a party line stance, which they have decided is in their own political best interest, irrespective of whether or not that stance is grounded in reality. That brings me to my basic last point on Obama's speech. See, I heard what he had to say, and it was good. But when was the last time the president gave a bad speech? I mean, the guy is truly gifted in that regard. He always has something powerful to say, and he always says it very well. But what we've seen over the last year is that sometimes there's a distance between what our president is telling us and what we see as the process of actually getting it done. I don't believe it's because he's seeking to be disingenuous with us. I think that there actually is a challenge in moving beyond rhetoric to reality. But that said, when I heard the Republican response, one thing was very clear to me, that one, there aren't necessarily the wealth of ideas coming from the other side that we would like to see as a nation, right? I sat down with a couple of new friends who were Republicans and significantly older than myself, a very lovely lady named Mary from Florida and a gentleman named Lou from New York, Brooklyn, as myself, but he lives in Florida too. And they were telling me that normally they don't even listen to Democrats. They don't want to hear it. But in our launch of the Derrick Ashong Experience this Saturday, they were willing to listen to me because they thought I presented an independent voice. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I lean definitely towards a progressive end. But as I was speaking to those two people who were lifelong Republicans, it became very clear to me that we had a lot of things in common. Even though we were separated by maybe 20, 30 years, we had a lot in common, and we all wanted the best for our nation. The problem I see right now is I don't fully believe that people in Congress today, and sadly, particularly on the right side of the aisle, have our nation's best interest at stake. And for some reason, a lot of pundits won't say it. But because I don't work for the traditional media outlets, I'm going to tell you what I really think. I think that what you find is happening is people are looking out for their own narrow political interests, what they think it will take to get back into power or to maintain power, as opposed to what will it take to get our nation back on its feet? What will it take to get American people working again? What will it take to reframe and rebuild America's national standing? What will it take to repair our financial sector and make sure that the kind of poorly thought out policies and business models that led us into this particular state cannot be replicated, right? What will it take to make sure that America remains great and achieves even higher status and higher heights as we move forward? What will it take for people of my generation to have hope that our tomorrow will indeed be better than yesterday? This is what our leaders should be speaking to, but that's not what I'm seeing. I listened to the response from Governor McDonnell, and it really seemed like he was reading off of the usual talking points. He may not even have had to listen to the State of the Union. And this brings me to my critique of the president. President Obama, you are an amazing and inspiring figure, and we fought to get you elected, and we believe in you, and we have high hopes for you. That said, this year, it has struck me personally and many of the people I've spoken to that when it comes down to the crunch, sometimes we have not seen the fight in you that we want and need to see. Now, that's not to say that we want you to go out there and be bloviating and acting tough guy, mission accomplished, etc. No, that's not the issue. We don't need you to be anything other than who you are. But right now, we're at a state in this country where so many people are so frightened for their futures, where so many people are so uncertain of what's coming next, where so many people are genuinely confused and wondering what can be done, that we are especially today looking to our leaders to shine a light on what's possible and to be willing to fight to make it happen. We know that you've got a gentle and a peaceful bedside manner comprised and combined with a very, very brilliant and insightful mind. But we need to believe that you're not just going to do whatever it takes to get legislation passed, but that you're going to do whatever it takes to serve the interest of we the people. Because as I listen to your speech and as I listen to the response, I realize something very clearly. No matter what you said tonight, the other side would have claimed that you were going to tax and spend, that you were going to socialize our economy, that you were going to dig into the pockets of small business and individuals. And you said nothing of the sort. We look back historically and we see the same kind of challenges, the same kind of criticisms were labeled when, or were leveled when we tried to have Social Security passed, when Medicare was on tap. Now nobody wants to touch them, but at the time it was all about communism. To give money for older people, retirees, to be able to sustain themselves, to invest in those who have invested in building our nation, that's communism. To make sure that the poor and the elderly can have adequate access to health care, that's communism? No, I don't believe so. I believe that that's the promise of a great nation. That if you invest in us, we will invest in you. You don't have to be a banker in America to make it. Now we have healthcare on dock. And we hear the same arguments, that it's socialism, that it's communism, that it's not real, it's not substantive. And we hear the same rejoinder on every other topic. The idea that with foreign policy, we are granting the rights of Americans to terrorists, when we know that during the Bush administration, people like the shoe bomber Richard Reed were tried in American courts, along with many others. And what I have to say to you, sir, is, Mr. President, we hope that you will accept that there may not be a partnership to be found on the other side of the aisle on some of these issues. And whether that is or is not the case, that you will be willing to fight for us, to give us a chance at a future. The speech was amazing. Now we need some more proof in that pudding. And we want to see you for the next 12 months fighting tooth and nail for our interests. Because if you will stand up for us, so will we stand up for you. But to inspire me today, I need more than a great speech. I need powerful action. And President Obama, that is what we are asking for from you. This is Derrick Ashong. My friends call me DNA, representing the Derrick Ashong Experience on Oprah Radio. You can catch us this Saturday and every Saturday from noon to 3 p.m. on oprahradio.com, Sirius 195, XM 156. We're going to be taking a difficult but insightful and pan-global look at what's going on in our world. We hope that you will join us. That's my word. Peace.